What's up YouTube, Duel here from Zephyr, bringing you another live commentary from a duel at locals. On the right I'm playing MimiGhouls and on the left we have Sky Strikers. So straight away, starting off with terraforming, getting us the planet Rice-Off. This is purely because I already have access to Dungeon in the hand, going for Kashtira Unicorn. Now this is the idea that you get to look at your opponent's extra deck, know exactly what they're on and start ripping away. Unfortunately, as it is a smaller locals, we all know that Striker is on this, and I thought this would be a very interesting match to show you of how MimiGhouls interact with Strikers, and more so how Strikers kind of out the MimiGhouls, because they are the worst capable, like one of the worst matchups for Strikers, because they keep giving them monsters on the board. So what I've tried to do here is give my opponent a MimiGhoul, meaning that I can play around Imperm quite easily. We start off by normal summoning down Dragon. Dragon gathers me a Maker. Maker would then reveal Archfiend and a... I'm trying to remember what one I think it's Cerberus is the other one that I searched, because in my previous duels I kept revealing Slime and Archfiend, and I kept getting Slime to my board, and Slime doesn't do anything to your board. You kind of want your opponent to get it. So we go Archfiend, we flip the Cerberus. Cerberus mills free. If there's a monster in it, I summon it. Obviously, against Strikers, that's not going to happen. But because I activated a monster effect, I get to use Unicorn to look at my opponent's extra deck and rip away a card. So on this one, I'm going to rip away an SP Little Knight, as that is probably the most effective kind of card that will keep floating around. Like, there's no point in hitting the Striker cards because they all play them at multiples anyway. We now use Unicorn to search us out Birth. We're going to overlay 2 to go into our MimiGhoul Maker. This is obviously the idea that it's going to get you access to another MimiGhoul card, which is why I love the XYZ so much. And this is going to get us access to the MimiGhoul room. And ultimately what you're doing is you're stopping your opponent from getting into anything, because you're going to go, room will give them a monster so they can't keep normal summoning. And I decided to go for Throne. I found myself at this locals playing Throne a lot more than anything else, because it gets you that MimiGhoul Master from the deck, and then it basically gives you a quick effect bounce, which is really kind of cool. And it also means that my master can't be destroyed, which allows me to play around certain board breakers that my opponent might have in the form of Raigeki and everything else. So you start off by activating Cosmic Cyclone during the draw phase to hit one of the cards, and the card they hit is Book of Moon, which, to be fair, is probably going to be used in this matchup more as a defensive option to deal with targeted effects than trying to Book of Moon any of the monsters, because the only monsters they're going to summon are Rays and Rose, and the Ray can quick effect tag out anyway. I'm just explaining what effects I've got on the board. Obviously, if my opponent activates a monster effect, I can look at their extra deck with Unicorn again. None of them have any destruction protection apart from the MimiGhoul Master, and I feel that's where, like, my opponent doesn't own thrusts at the moment. He obviously said that beforehand, which is completely fine, which would be massively helpful for them, because as soon as I activate a monster effect, they go thrust and then get direct access to stuff like Dark Hole, which allows them to clear their board as well. So they flip up the MimiGhoul monster that I gave them, which was Fairy, and then in doing so, I then get Room. And the reason they flipped up Fairy is because they couldn't normal summon while they had a face down, and then this is where Room comes into play, because it just allows me to put another face down back on their board that they can't flip this turn, so they still just can't normal summon. Which is very interesting, because it means like the first action of their main phase that they get, they will need to flip up a monster. It looks like we're going Upstart into Upstart, and it's like, well, yeah, I'm not going to do anything from that one. And they're just trying to figure out what outs they have. It's painful that I banished one of the engages off of the Cerberus, so that still can be quite useful. It looks like they've literally just drawn into a Raigeki, which is painful, because I will lose everything apart from Master, and I could, in theory, use the effect of Throne to bounce, but there's nothing I really want to bounce, and it's a you can effect, so I'll just double check it here to make sure it's a you can. I don't want to bounce back my MimiGhoul. So he clears out the entire board apart from Master, which obviously now has an additional 1000 attack. Plus, with MimiGhoul Dungeon in play, it also gets its defense. So it's like a 4k mini boss monster, which is really kind of cool. So we draw for turn. You've got to remember as well that MimiGhoul flip effects are only during the main phase. So if I attack that face down MimiGhoul, it's not going to do anything. And I believe I gave them Dragon. I'm not 100% sure on that one, just in case they did put something on the board. So we're going to use Dungeon, we're going to search out a Dragon again. We're going to normal summon down said Dragon eventually, but we're going to activate Birth to bring back the Unicorn, which gives me access to look at my opponent's extra deck should I need to. We can use Unicorn's effect to search me out the Cash Furiosis, which is why I play that card. I think I felt more and more that technically you don't really need to play the Theosis, and you don't really need to play Fenrir in the deck. So you can take them out if you want to. I just feel that Unicorn's probably like the ideal scenario on this one. So we're going to normal summon down Dragon. Dragon's effect is going to allow me to search. And this is where it gets a little bit tricky. Like, I felt that during my earlier rounds, I was going for Maker a lot quicker and a lot sooner, but they didn't really help me. Anyway, they've opened up Call by the Grave, which banishes a dragon from the graveyard already, and then that's relatively painful because it means my dragon doesn't resolve. And because it was summoned this turn, it's not going to have 2500 attack because it doesn't get that benefit of the stat buff from the field spell. And then I used Room to bounce back the Master, and then I went, wait, I've already normal summoned my dragon. What am I doing? Why would I do that? That's the stupidest thing I've ever done. Because in my brain, I was like, cool, bounce the Master, normal the Master. But I was like, hang on a minute, I've already normaled the dragon. So that was just the stupidest thing I could have possibly done. And now I'm like, well, do I want to attack the MimiGhoul and kill it? Or do I want to leave it on their board so that they're forced to flip it and then I get the effect? I can't remember. If it's an Archfiend, then it's not so bad because I get a draw and they have to lose a card. I just can't remember if it was a dragon or an Archfiend. If it's a dragon, they flip it and nothing happens. I just get that dragon. Another very interesting card that completely counters MimiGhouls is Dominus Impulse. So if you're facing a deck that plays Dominus Impulse and they drop it on you, straight away it turns off all of your MimiGhoul effects when you give them to your opponent. So they don't do anything. You just give them free monsters, which is painful. And I think at this Locals, I ended up playing 2 Mermaids and a Labyrinth. All 3 of those decks ended up playing Impulse, and so does Sky Striker. Sky Striker have got it in the side deck. So that was very, very funny, which I feel is what's going to really hold MimiGhouls back going forward, just because that card exists. So we activate the Theosis, we get the Fenrir from the deck, and the Fenrir is just going to provide us with a form of interruption. We're going to be able to search out a Unicorn as well for a follow-up. And that's just like, do you go into an like a rank 7? And the only rank 7 I play in the deck is Big Eye, and I don't think that's really beneficial right here. So honestly, I'm not going to just leave it as it is. It means my dragon is now buffed by 25, so they're going to flip the card, which was the Archfiend, which lets me draw one and they have to ditch one. But by them doing that, they clear their board off, which means they can now technically start playing Striker. So we ditch Widow Anchor. I think there is a Ray in the hand, or a Drones in the hand. Oh, there's an Afterburner as well on the... which is pretty damaging, because that Afterburner will hit the Fenrir and then take out one of the back rows, which will probably be... I would assume will be Birth, because if he doesn't take out the Birth, then on a new chain, the Birth would activate to banish 3. So definitely the right choice to destroy that. And then a Drone. So 2 very, very good cards for Strikers. Summon out the token. And then there's not really anything I can do here, because they're not currently activating any monster effects. So it's just turn into Kagari, and then this is where Unicorn can kind of come into play. The draw wasn't anything that I would have that was beneficial for me, but they're going to add back the Afterburners. We're going to use Unicorn to rip out the extra deck. The only other thing they could have brought was the brought back would be the Widow Anchor, but now that I get to take away the access code means there's not got the easy route to an OTK. Activate the Afterburner, take out Unicorn, take out Dungeon, and then I'm pretty much just left there with, like, both Dragon and Archfiend are not strong at all. So just going to keep linking here. Hayate, tap one of the monsters, do damage, 1500 because the Archfiend was only 19. Ditch a card from deck to grave, which is the Ray, which now means that if I get rid of... it's kind of a good play, because if I get rid of the Hayate or Shizuku or whatever they end up ending their board into, the Ray just starts floating back, which is quite damaging. I think if Ray wasn't a dark or even a light, like, the deck would be even more better. I just feel that Bestials are more modernized. So we move to the end phase. He uses Shark Cannon to take the Fenrir, and then he's got the engage follow up for the next turn. So we draw for turn. We've got a fairly healthy hand, so we get to go for another dungeon. Dungeon's going to start us off again. And this is where you can kind of... like, I mean, there's no back row to worry about. It's literally just making sure we don't activate a monster effect. Because if we activate a monster effect, that's where Fenrir is going to cause us issues. So we kind of put our opponent in a bit of a position as well, where we're going to give them Dragon, which is an activated effect. So if they wanted to, they could Fenrir and get rid of the dungeon or get rid of the Dragon. The Dragon's currently still 2500 now that we've got the dungeon in play. So technically that should be strong enough to kill the Fenrir. But we don't really want to waste our battle phase there. We kind of want to build up a bit more of a better board while utilizing spells and traps and everything. Well, more so spells than traps. So we reveal Slime and we reveal Archfiend, and we really want them to hit the Slime. But they don't. It hits the Archfiend. I just get the Slime as a free extender. There's no other MimiGhoul in the hand apart from Master, which I probably could have summoned down, but Master only flips during your opponent's turn, not your turn, which makes it a little bit more awkward. But the idea is that if you go into... I think I go into... you want to go into MimiGhoul Master... not Master. Yeah, Giant MimiGhoul. Because now we can use MimiGhoul's effect to target both those face-up monsters on the board to destroy them. maintain our battle phase, burn them for 2k. They've already taken a k off of Cosmic Cyclone as well, so they're down to 5k. If we can get more MimiGhouls to the board, which we haven't conducted our normal summon yet, we'll be able to attack directly, which can kind of help tick away a bit more damage if we need to. So Master gets normal summoned, Master's Effect to search. This is going to allow us to grab any MimiGhoul monster. So we would grab the armor. Now, what my opponent doesn't know is I'm actually starting to really burn down on resource. I need to start adding cards back from the graveyard. But we're going to reveal the armor to summon itself down. We're going to reveal the fairy to summon itself down as well. And overlay 2. So we've got a dragon, and we're just worrying about, like, do we want to flip them up? So we go into the number 13, which flips up both the face downs, which means dragon will attempt to destroy Ray, and then whatever they tag Ray into will also be destroyed. We've already used Ray's float back effect this turn, so that's not going to be much of an issue. And then we'll also get Archfiend to get rid of that engage in the hand as well, and then I get to draw an additional card. So to go into Kagari, they then get to choose the chain links because it's their cards that are activating. So he goes Kagari as chain link. So it goes Kagari as chain link 3, Archfiend is chain link 2, and then because then it means basically the card they add back can be the card that gets discarded off of Archfiend. So they add back the afterburners, they discard the afterburners. Dragon then destroys the Kagari, and then both of the monsters come back to my side of the field. And now this should ultimately push him for game. I'm trying to think how game is missed at this point. Oh, yeah, sorry, because the Archfiend and the Dragon was summoned this turn, so they don't get the buff off the back of the dungeon. So at the moment, there's only 2,800 attack on board, not enough to finish the game off. And then it's like, well, do I make a rank? We were just kind of discussing when they were summoned, because obviously it's been a bit of a long turn. But they were technically special summoned this turn, which means they don't get the buff of the dungeon. So then it's like, okay, well, what rank 1 could I make that is going to be effective for me that will do enough damage? And unfortunately, there's not really many rank 1s that are massively powerful. I know they've got the engage, so they're going to go, they'll have engage their top deck, and then they'll get a search off of engage and a draw off of engage. So it's still a lot for them to get. So it's just kind of calculating, is there a way of getting enough damage on the board? Like, the best thing you could do is like link off 2 to go into an IP to then try and set up an SP during their turn. So we ultimately just go to battle phase, do 2,800, and then it's all about getting the monsters off the board, really. The other thing you got to be careful of is Widow Anchor. So we decide to overlay, we go into Throne, and then we link off the Master plus the number 13 to go into SP Little Knight. SP Little Knight to banish 1 from the graveyard, and it's like, well, do I hit the spell or do I hit the Ray? I probably could have gone into IP instead, but then you kind of need to be careful that you're not going to get any advantage or mass advantage off of SP, or IP into SP, because they would go engage, search out Widow Anchor, and you're like, okay. So we go SP, we banish, we use Throne to bring back the MimiGhoul, they draw for turn, they activate engage. Engage is going to get them a direct search of what they want, plus a randomized draw. So they can go direct. I think they go directly for Ray and get it back into rotation anyway. Oh no, we're going to Afterburners, which is still quite damaging, because now like SP hasn't got much he can do. Oh, he's got a rotor. He top deck rotor for turn. That's disgusting. Or he drew the rotor off of engage. So search out Ray. We know they've got the starter, so you just activate Afterburners really, and then Afterburners will clear 2 out. Target the SP, chain SP and the MimiGhoul, banish both of those. Now what we still have the benefit of is we can now force, because the MimiGhoul Throne is a bounce, non-target, we can bounce back the monster that they put down. So if they go Ray, we go, yeah, that's fine. Ray could probably go to battle phase, but now what we do is we force the Ray with Throne. We now force the quick effect. So Ray now needs to trigger to summon out. We then equip the Throne and then bounce back. And because we bounce back, it doesn't get to add back. But because it left, Ray comes back. We then Book of Moon. He then activates Talents. Talents still go into Typhon. Typhon attack for 25. Bounce the dungeon. I said, where does that go? Does it go back to the hand? He was like, yeah, it goes back to the hand. So then, obviously, unbeknownst to my opponent, I was able to start again. So we end up going into game 2. Again, he makes me go first, so he's obviously gone for more board breakers like dark holes and everything, which is quite interesting. We start off with Maker. I don't know why I keep revealing slime. Like, I mean, this is the best outcome because you go, kill Archfiend, flip the slime, slime gives me an additional monster to the board. But like, if I got the slime and they got the Archfiend, it just wouldn't have done anything for me. I would have just got an extender to the board. So, the other downside is if you were revealed Dragon, you kind of want more MimiGhouls in the hand to work off of that one. Anyway, we go Dragon into Dungeon, grab Fairy, put a monster from my opponent's board so that I can activate talents. Look at my opponent's hand. They've got Evenly, Raigeki, Change of Heart, Ray, and Linkage. So like that hand's pretty good because Evenly I'm not so worried about because I'll make sure they end their turn with a monster. The Change of Heart is pretty damaging. Like the Raigeki I can play around as we saw in game 1. I'll go down the master route again, which is obviously where Giant MimiGhoul comes into play. Giant MimiGhoul gets me room, which means I'll guarantee there'll always be 2 monsters on my opponent's board. So they won't be able to normal summon. We'll summon down Fairy, we'll overlay into Throne. Throne's effect to get us Master from the deck again. And we're pretty much doing the exact same play. I quite like this route of play with the MimiGhoul deck and the MimiGhoul strategy. I just think it kind of works out nicely. So I wasn't really the biggest fan of it when it first came out. I was like, it's okay. But now I quite like it. It's a shame you're never really going to get multiple bounces because you'll need to have MimiGhoul Master already on the board to then get a double bounce. But I quite like the idea of like a single non-target bounce is quite good. So Raigeki, obviously I'm going to lose my cards anyway. And it's like, well, I knew you had it. So we'll use Throne. I'm not going to bounce back the MimiGhoul that I've given you because I'm going to force it. You're going to need to flip it if you need to. If you need to normal summon. And then you just kind of want to give a bit more advantage. I do kind of want a MimiGhoul that flips and destroys a back row though. That's kind of what I want. So we're going to flip the Cerberus. The Cerberus does the top 3, gets rid of another engage and gets rid of an impulse. I get the Cerberus to my board. We're then going to activate Room and he's going to chain linkage. Send in a linkage on the field to the grave, give that to them. They get the Hayate, which lets them get stuff into rotation. I think I gave them Dragon this turn, and the best thing is I've got Master that can flip the Dragon, so that's kind of where the quick effect of Master can come into play. And if there's no Ray in rotation, it's kind of like, okay. Master flip it, destroy the board, or like Raigeki their board. And then I get the Dragon, so go Hayate dump, send multi-roll. That's how they're going to try and out the MimiGhoul that I've given them. So they go into Kagari. So multi-roll activates. On the activation of multi-roll, thinking or not whether to flip up that MimiGhoul or not. Yeah, we'll flip up the MimiGhoul. Dragon's effect to destroy the Kagari. Dragon comes to my board. And the best thing is because Dragon wasn't summoned this turn, it's going to have the attack buff. It looks like there's a Ray, so he's obviously... Oh yeah, we knew he had the Ray. So it was trying to stop the normal summon, but he would have been able to clear it off anyway, still get the Ray down. So now at least it forces the Ray to be used. Going to Shizuku. Shizuku's effect is going to go off. There's no Sky Striker spell that's been activated this turn. And there isn't really a Sky Striker spell in the graveyard that's worth resetting off the back of multi-roll, which is why they decided to go for Engage. Is that an impulse in the hand? I think that is an impulse in the hand. I mean, explain if you got it. So we give them a MimiGhoul, we set that on the board, we normal summon down the Dragon. Dragon's effect to search. Searches out the Fork, and I was like, you know what, let's just have a bit of fun. So we'll give them an Archfiend. We'll use Fork to try and send the Archfiend. So now they've got 2 monsters, so it shuts out any back row they might have. They decide to send it and let me draw 2 cards. I didn't really draw anything too effective. But what you've got to remember is Master is something like 4k now. My second Dragon is 2500 and the Cerberus is buffed as well. So we're going to banish the Fork, search out a second Fork. Not that you could use it, but you just deck Fin by 1. Dungeon's also going to search to get us a Slime. We can summon a Slime down as an extender. We're going to overlay into Giant MimiGhoul, which means all my MimiGhouls can attack directly where they control a face down monster. We're going to search out the room off of the Giant MimiGhoul just in case they have crackback. And then it's basically going to be Master in for 4k. The Cerberus will be, so 25 off of the back of thing. I think if I did the maths, it was something like 7,800 damage on board that could be attacked directly. And I've got a Bestial in the hand. So I think I drew a Bull Drake. So the idea is in a minute, you'll see Bull Drake target Ray during the battle phase, summon itself down, kill the Shizuku, and then that's the last little bit of damage. Anyway, so as we wrap this up, thank you so much for watching. If you do have any questions at all, by all means, please put in the comments down below. I'll be more than happy to answer them. For now, as absolutely always, stay safe, and of course, happy dueling.